Someone's going to go for 2 and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number 1. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. Along with John Bruce, my name is Dewey Dailey, as we welcome you into this week's show. Episode 66 here on the podcast is we're past the district tournament for both boys and girls. It seems like just yesterday we were previewing Unioto and Miami Trace to open up the year in November, but the girls are now at the state tournament. The boys are kicking off the regional tournament. I believe Thursday are the first games of the regional semifinal round. So we've got a lot to talk about, and a lot of and it was kind of expected with the divisional expansion, but a lot of teams moving on to the Sweet 16 for us. And I think we hit the over on girls teams advancing to the Final Four as well. And I think it was the 3 teams that we kind of had in mind when going over 2.5. So, and 2 of them squaring off. I don't know where it is. I thought I did, and then I didn't. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But episode 66 on the pod. This could be our last episode. Is once the teams start dwindling down, it's hard to have an hour and a half episode about 4 or 5 teams. Right. So, but yeah, it should be a fun episode here on episode 66.
And if we don't continue on into next week, just make sure you follow all of our social stuff, because that way you'll see how these teams do whenever we're going on to cover more of them. So maybe we could throw out what we think for the boys. We'll see if we think there's going to be multiple teams moving on to the state there too. So, and
that'll be pretty much all of you, because I'll be honest, outside of the Southeast District, I don't know anything. Like some people have asked me, like, how does this team match up with this team out of the East? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I don't pay attention to the whole state.
I'll tell you.
If you ask me a district game, I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah,
but one out of the East would be Fairfield Union. With the girls, I think we kind of threw it out there, and then they absolutely annihilated the teams out of the East. So, I think we thought there's a chance, but I don't think we thought that they would absolutely,
Yes. Especially after we saw them at Southeastern, because
they didn't
everybody can be honest here. Like, that wasn't a very well played game.
Yeah.
It was, but, we, especially in the district tournament, you'd rather win ugly than lose pretty.
Yes.
So they moved on and, dominant in the regional tournament. So we'll go ahead and jump into the headlines. We'll talk about those 3 girls' games. Well, actually, technically it's only 2 games, because I think 2 of them are playing each other. We'll talk about those games towards the end of the episode, but we'll kick off episode 66 with just one headline, and it's a pretty significant one. Is for South Webster, Norm Persin winning the John Wooden Legacy Award, along with a district title over the weekend.
Yeah, in the John Wooden Legacy Award, this is the 4th time it's been given out. They do it once a year for one boys coach, one girls coach across the entire state. So we looked at it as, this is a pretty big award, because it's not just handed out.
This isn't a district tri coach of the year award.
Yes, it is not. So it goes to someone who has, earned it throughout their career, and Norm Persin has definitely earned that. 803 and 226 is his career record. In his 21 years at Chesapeake, he won 16 OVC championships, including 12 straight at one point. 2009 Division IV state champions at Oak Hill. And then he's also been the state coach of the year 7 times in his career. And it really wouldn't surprise me if that adds up to happen another time here this year with this outstanding team that he's got at South Webster. It's a great career. Obviously, he's been at a variety of schools: Oak Hill, Chesapeake, Valley, South Webster, and then Wilmington as well. So, he's been at a variety of schools. He's had a lot of success. And, obviously, one of the best coaches that's ever coached in the state of Ohio. So it'd be nice to see if he could get another state title here in the next couple of weeks. I think this is there's a lot of positives about this South Webster team right now, and I thought the way they played uh, the other day, which would have been last night. Man, these days are running together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
It was a long weekend.
yeah. So with how they played against Leesburg, Fairfield, I was really impressed with what they were able to do. They only, what we've seen of them, they've taken some, kind of some steps back every once in a while, and it was for what, about a minute, maybe two in that game.
I felt like the first quarter
The
was
first
pretty
quarter, yeah,
competitive. In the second quarter, they started to pull away, and then the
yeah.
second half, they just controlled their lead. So,
Yeah, they were just very impressive. Man, if Bo Stevens can do what he
yeah.
did off the bench in that game, that's gonna be a tough team to beat anyway. And if you have a guy score 14 straight points off the bench, that makes things even more difficult. They play really good defense. I thought they looked like their chemistry was the best that I've seen them have the last couple of years. So if they can continue that on, I think they're going to have an excellent chance. And you had said how Coach Pearson jumped up and was leading the huddle, which he hadn't done that much of from what we've seen the last couple of years. So just seeing him with even more energy is got to make that um, you know, an even more fun team to be around. So, congratulations to him on getting the John Wooden Legacy Award, and look forward to seeing how South Webster does this coming weekend, and then hopefully beyond that as well, because that means that they keep winning.
And we'll talk about them a little bit towards the end of the boys segment. It's not going to be a super long episode, right?
Mm.
So we'll go ahead and move on to the boys side of this week's episode, and we're just going to, kind of recap the district tournament over the weekend and talk about the regional semi matchups for each of these teams. So we'll start in Division Four. This was on Thursday night. We're not going to go too deep into it as a team that's in the Southeast District, but outside of our coverage area. New Lexington put on a show, taking
Yes.
down Meigs in overtime. The district tournament weekend started and ended on opposite ends of the spectrum, as we had an overtime game to kick things off in D4, and I don't know what it ended up being, but it was like a 30-point game. I think it was 22 was the official final, but a very lopsided game in Division 7 to finish it. But man, Isaiah Stevens missed some time towards the end of the season, but he seems like he's ready to roll into the regional tournament.
Yeah, if you didn't see any of these games, you're one of the only ones, because we had some great viewership. We really appreciated that. Me and Dewey obviously had several games. Also, Carson and Kenneth were on there as well. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. We on the season, we finished with over 115,000 views out of the 51 games that we covered. So we really appreciate watching along with us. So we got better throughout the year, I thought, and that's kind of just all you want to do, and it makes it a lot more fun for us to watch when we know, or to do the games when people are watching along with us. So once again, we appreciate that. But yeah, that New Lexington game was awesome to start with. That's on the YouTube page. It was a really good game.
We saw some, outside of the tournament, we saw some pretty good games this year. We should have compiled our top 5 or top 10 or something, and just went back and kind of reminisced on all of them. But
yeah, it was a really good season for us, and we were able to get out and safely get to games and whatnot. And Kenneth's car was great the entire way. It didn't break down ever. But yeah, overall, it was just a good season overall. We appreciate being able to do it together. And kind of move on. So, yeah, but going back to that game, that New Lexington game was outstanding. Isaiah Stevens might have been the best player of the entire weekend, and you could tell he was still making his way back from injury. And yeah, they were they were a team that we knew coming into the season was going to be really good, and then they just didn't have a great season. They were 12-10 in the regular season. They are now 15-10 and won their first district championship since 1998. So I mean, it was an outstanding season for them. For Unioto, they were able to win a district in Matt Combs' first year at Unioto. They're going to take on a really good Caledonia River Valley team on Thursday night, so that's going to be a tough one for them. That's going to be pretty tight night with New Lexington and Unioto in our district area. So it'd be nice if one of them get a win. We'll see in that way. But overall, even if not, those two had outstanding seasons and postseason runs. Division three, we're not really going to go into, but Miami Trace lost to Steubenville, and I was really impressed.
You said Isaiah Stevens. I felt like Aiden Davis may have been the best player of the weekend. That kid, oof.
Yeah, it's just.
I saw something where it said, and I don't know if it's true. I think it was on SU Ohio Preps. It said Davis and Will Taylor were at Steubenville as freshmen, transferred out, and then came back as seniors.
So yeah, they were back this year. I knew that. And yeah, they both came in. And then Steubenville Central Catholic, which Notre Dame's going to play, like one of them may have been there too. So, I mean, some really good basketball over in the Steubenville area. So, and we got to see just a little bit of it. And I mean, that Miami Trace team, they finished their season at 23-1, but man, they had an outstanding season as well. Beat a pretty good Chillicothe team and a really good Warren team to even get to that level, and then falling just a little bit short.
So, did you want me to go to the next?
Just completely stopped.
All right, Division 5. Minford opened up the Friday night slate with a win over Zane Trace. It was their first district title since 1995, where I think they beat Unioto. That was the last time the Falcons won a district title. And obviously for them, I think probably the most feel-good district title of the weekend is, it had been 30 years since their last, and they came up short where I think they were heavy favorites the last couple of years to North Adams. So the Falcons finally able to get over the hump and move on to the regional tournament, a matchup with Garaway. Is that Friday as well? Are they all
That's Friday,
a week apart?
Yeah. So I'll say this. You mentioned that about the feel-good moment. Like, those are two of the more likable teams this year, too, because this St. Trace team was super likable, too. And then, somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. But it was, some kids that you kind of want to cheer for. And when we're doing the games, you like seeing good things happen to both of those teams. So ultimately, one of them had to win, which was Minford. And Zane Trace had an outstanding season as well, even though it came up a little bit short. And then Chesapeake gets to take on Martin's Ferry and maybe the purplest matchup you could have on Friday night as well. So Chesapeake's going to come in at number 11. They're a very good team. They do just things really well, and maybe they don't blow teams out. For instance, like that Wheelersburg game, they didn't blow out Wheelersburg, and they didn't really blow out Eastern Brown on Tuesday. And
they beat them by like 15.
Did they?
Yeah, it was a double-digit win. I'd have to look it up to make sure.
I think you're right.
I was thinking it was like a 16-point win. I'll go to the North Fork Animal Clinic scoreboard and go back to Tuesday. 13, 53-40.
Yeah, but
after trailing in the first half.
But the big upset of the week was on Tuesday when Wheelersburg beat Fairland, yeah, and it was a game. They're up 15 going into the fourth quarter. Fairland stormed back and tied it, or took the lead.
Yeah, 1 point lead for about 20 seconds. I think it was Miller on the other end, put him back out in front.
Yeah, Xavier Miller was awesome.
He's only a sophomore, isn't he? Oh.
Yeah, they're going to be really tough next year. Chesapeake's going to be really tough. Yeah, it's going to be, Division 5 is still going to be really hard to win. And it's just going to be, you got to be ready at all times because you can get upset by one of these really good teams also. So I think we've got a decent chance to get a Chesapeake and Minford regional final. which would be really fun to get down at the Convo as well. So,
Yep.
Can't guarantee that will happen, but I think Cuzzy against Montgomery or Kaiser would be really fun. So, yeah, I think
It's kind
that
of contrasting style. I just feel like Chesapeake plays a much slower
yes,
game, and where Minford is more, up and down the floor as fast as you can go.
but yeah, with Minford and Chesapeake, hopefully those two can combine and face each other on whatever. I think it would probably be Sunday. It would be Sunday. It would be Sunday in the regional final, which of course your boy is not available for. So
What do you have Sunday?
Family
Okay.
thing.
All right, we can go ahead and move on to Division Six.
I didn't think they would play on Sunday, so I was like, oh yeah, I can do something on
What
that
do you mean?
Sunday.
We just had 5 games on a Sunday.
I know, but when I originally said
Yeah.
yes to what I'm doing, then Division Six will be, Eastern Pike and North Adams both moved on pretty handily in their games. So the games on Sunday were not
No,
particularly
there wasn't
good.
a game on Sunday decided by less than 15 points.
Yeah, so
So
due to that, I think that wore us down a little bit more too.
yeah, I tell you that it was a long, Sunday was a long day. I mean, it was
Yeah.
going to be long anyway because it's 5 games, but the non-competitiveness
Yes,
of
that'll wear you down.
yeah, it made it a lot longer. And like you said, we kicked it off with Eastern Pike and Lucasville Valley, and Valley's going to be tough next year, but Valley just
But they have to do one thing much better.
they got to make free throws,
Yeah.
and I think that was almost deflating just in and of
To
itself.
start,
Is you watch Valley compete, and I'm telling you, inside of about 10 feet, Valley may have been the best team at the Convo on the weekend. I mean, they rebounded offensively and defensively as well as you could. They finished at the rim. But man, free throws and 3-pointers, they just couldn't knock them down. And, they end up losing by, 16 or 17 or whatever it ended up being. But, I mean, if they made 50% of their free throws, they're within 5 or 6 points. They couldn't make anything. And it got to the point where if you're Eastern, if you have fouls, just use them because Valley just absolutely. I don't think I would have to go back and look. I don't think they had a perfect trip to the line. I think they either split every pair
I think
or
their
missed.
first one was. I think they were 2 for 2 to start, and then after that they split didn't make any.
Yeah, the free throws for Lucasville Valley, and it's a fairly young team. I think they only had one senior. I don't think there were very many juniors, if any. Majority sophomores for the Indians, so you expect them to. Be a lot better next year. And I think they're, maybe a favorite to make it back to the district final in Division 6 next season as well. I think Eastern is probably a favorite as well.
I would think so.
It seems like Coach Lice, we had them, we predicted them to have a down year this year, and, look where they are. They're in the regional tournament now. So,
and I think they have a more beneficial first meeting than North Adams does. I think North Adams is going to have a tough time with Monroe Central. But if North Adams was playing Monroe Central at the Convo, I would say North Adams.
These are at Ohio Dominican.
Yeah, because they're unbelievable at the Convo.
Man, I tell you, North Adams might be like.
They might be the only team that doesn't worry about shooting. No,
and I know obviously the last couple of years they've had to have lost at the Convo because they lost in the regionals. But man, this team they don't lose in the Convo. In district play, they don't lose in the Convo. Yeah. They haven't. The last 2 years they're 5-0. I don't know if the semis were there a couple of years ago, but
they were.
Yeah, so 5-0 the last couple of years at the Convo. 3 straight district championships. Are there any other boys teams that have won 3 straight district titles as of late? I know Waterford girls and Portsmouth girls are probably going to do that. Waterford already has. Fairland's won 3 straight regionals, but yeah, the run that North Adams is on in Division 6 has been outstanding. I'm not sure if it'll continue next year, but man, I tell you, I think personally for me, I think Division 6 is maybe. Well, I don't know, but we've seen North Adams' JV team, and they've looked solid. Yeah. So we'll see what's in store for the Green Devils next season as both them and Eastern Pike move on to the regional semis.
Monroe Central beat Warren earlier this year. That was one of Warren's losses, and That was also, and they also beat
Didn't
Wheelersburg.
yeah, I was gonna say, didn't
Yeah,
Wheelersburg play them at like the Convo or
yeah.
something
So
for?
they played a pretty tough schedule. They went out, and then anybody that beats Berlin Highland is usually pretty good. So, and that's who, and they beat Berlin Highland. So, ultimately, I think that's probably Monroe Central's region to win. But it wouldn't shock me if Eastern Pike or North Adams could make some noise while they're up there at ODU as well.
All right, we can go ahead and move on to Division 7 as South Webster and Notre Dame advancing on to the regional tournament. South Webster opened things up with a 15-point win over Fairfield, back-to-back district titles for the Jeeps. And they're matching up with, this is one of the few times I can talk about a team
Yeah.
outside of the Southeast District, is we saw Patriot Prep earlier in the season as Notre Dame handled them, in the second half especially, fairly easy at the battle in the 7-4-0 down at Shawnee State. I believe that was the first game of the weekend. So that was at like 11 a.m. on December 14th on a was it a Friday
Saturday.
or was it Saturday, Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking it may have been Friday, Saturday, but yeah, Notre Dame, what was it, like 15 or 16-point win over Patriot Prep. It was a dominant win for the Titans. So I think that kind of shows you where South Webster is at in comparison to Patriot Prep. I mean, you don't want to use transitive property too often, but I mean, South Webster with what, a 20 or 25-point win over Notre Dame, and Notre Dame a 20 or 25-point win, or a 16 or 20-point win over Patriot Prep. So I think it's safe to say South Webster, probably a 8, 9, 10-point favorite to move on to the regional final.
Yeah, as long as they show up, they're focused, they should be okay to get to the final four. After that, then it's just kind of where the cards, But overall, I think this is South Webster's to lose for sure. But I wouldn't be shocked if Notre Dame hung around Steubenville Central Catholic. That it's Notre Dame has had a nice season. I don't know if they're put together enough to beat South Webster, but I do think that they can definitely hang around and maybe get to that Elite Eight and give themselves a little bit of a chance there late. But ultimately, I do think this is South Webster's.
And then talking about Notre Dame, this is the game where I think everybody was a little wore out, including Manchester, who hadn't played yet, but wasn't the greatest performance.
Did not shoot well.
They scored 7 points in the first half. Finished with 30, so that they had a fairly solid second half.
Yeah, once they got a couple to go in, they shot it pretty well.
3 for 23 from the field in the first half. So it was a rough night for the Greyhounds, but I think for Manchester still it was a solid tournament run. I mean, you take down South Gallia, who, I mean, I had them losing to. And then they beat Southern, who is the number 3 seed, undefeated in the TVC Hawking. I think we both had the winner of South Gallia and Manchester beating Southern. I think that's one thing we said, is because you picked Manchester, I picked South Gallia, but I was like, whoever wins, like, they're beating Southern. And I think it was like a 6-point win over the Tornadoes for Manchester, but just couldn't get any shots to fall against Notre Dame in the nightcap. And for Notre Dame, I think the main thing was just the size inside. I mean, between the pair of Barbaretts, Brady Davis, Zion Berger, I just don't think on the interior Manchester really had an answer for it. And, for Manchester, it just felt like they just kept trying to force the ball inside, and it never worked. I mean, Notre Dame would get a deflection, a hand on every pass, and they just kept going back to it. When they tried threes on the outside, they weren't going in, except for Leland Horner, who made one about the 3-minute mark that, kind of nailed my coffin in for the weekend.
Well, the thing about them trying to get the ball inside was also that they weren't looking anything off. They were just staring at it and then throwing the ball inside, and that's not going to work against a team that's pretty athletic. Like, Notre Dame has some good athletes on their team, and Brady Davis. I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed this past weekend was watching Brady Davis, Guthrie. There's
Eli Roberts as well.
Yeah, like the big guys that big guys that could pass inside also. A lot of good big guys and a lot of good big guys that could pass, which you don't always see. And because between those guys, you saw some good ball movement inside, and made it to where they were able to score a little bit easier a couple trips later because of things opening up for their
I
teammates.
felt like the Myers twins played pretty well in the losing effort to Unioto as well, and
Yes.
obviously Carson Davis for
Yeah, that stomach.
Carson Davis for Megs. Obviously, they come up a little short, but I believe he's only a junior, so
Yes.
they'll be back next year. And what is it, February 14th? Manchester or Megs and Miami
Whoever.
Trace,
Yeah.
potentially a matchup.
Yeah.
That could be fun over at Jackson.
Yeah.
Await that announcement. I'm not totally sure what.
Yeah.
Potentially a classic
Of some
of
sort.
some sort hosted by us,
Them.
potentially
Yeah.
at Jackson on Valentine's Day next year.
Yeah.
Um, the slate is interesting. Megs and Miami Trace, which is like the middle game, probably the best one.
Hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. There'll be some.
Stay tuned for an announcement surrounding that. I don't know when we would announce. Would we wait until like next winter to announce that?
I hope not.
Maybe we would like give like a sneak peek over the summer and then like
Probably.
maybe fully announce it like right before basketball season
Hmm.
because it's literally like the week before. Like the girls' tournament will probably be
Yeah.
going on during that. So, speaking of the girls' tournament, we'll go ahead unless you have anything extra you want to talk about,
Nope.
boys. We'll go ahead and move on to the girls' tournament. This is going to be really quick. Just going to recap the regional tournament as we have three teams. Sorry, we have four teams going on to the state tournament. As Fairfield Union will start with Division 4. Fairfield Union, a big win over the team from the East District. Moving on to the regional tournament. Christian Thompson, a big night, 34 points. I believe that's a season high. I think
It
her
was. It
former
was.
was like 31
Hmm.
or something. So a season high for Thompson. Not ready to go home
Yeah.
quite yet is Thompson.
She had 17 in each half, so she was just
There you
trying to
go.
balance things out. But yeah, what a run for Fairfield Union. I think you know we were a little more convinced with that game over Circleville, but still, like, it wasn't the best offensive game.
Right.
And then they come out and just absolutely annihilated the teams out of the East, and now they get a chance to try to win a state championship. They will take on number 4 Kettering Alder, who has many more losses, but that's also because their schedule is uh, very heavy. So it'll be the number 2 Fairfield Union taking on number 4 Kettering Alder on the Max Preps rankings going into the state tournament. So we'll kind of see where they're at.
Where are these games? Where's this game at?
That's a good question.
Because obviously they're only playing the finals at Dayton now. And I know that Fairland and Portsmouth, which we'll talk about in a second, that one is at the Convo, I believe. I think it was at the Convo, then at Logan, and now maybe at the Convo again.
It was like mentioned that it was going to be at the Convo. Then when they posted it, they said it was at Logan. And then I don't know if they like accidentally didn't update it or they saw how mad everyone was.
Yeah, the PR, the OHSA
struggled.
PR people were probably a little stunned.
They
They
went out and said how none of these games were going to go from playing at they used Bowling Green as an example. They said, we're not going to go from playing at Bowling Green to going to play the state semifinals at a high school gym. And then they did that. And then they had to take it back. And that's pretty much what happened. They took it back, and now it will be at the Convo.
I just don't think a state Final Four game should be played at a place where a high school team plays their home games.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there are a few.
Now, the only way you need to get Trent Arena, which is where Kettering Fairmont plays. That one's like a 5,000 seat arena. So
that's a little different.
But that's a very...
There are some that warrant it. Like, and it would never happen because of location. But, like, if they played a Final Four game at Waverly, like, I wouldn't be mad.
Right.
Now, it's an odd place just because of the, like, geographical location, but that gymnasium would work.
Right.
I just don't think Logan really warrants a
Right.
Final Four. Now regionals, yeah, sure, or like even like Ironton. Like Ironton's gym is pretty cool, but you're not going to play a Final Four game at the southernmost point of the state. So, but yeah, it's hopefully they do, if they haven't already, get that switched over. Where did you say the Division 4 one was?
Division 4, they will be playing at Ohio Dominican. So that's not that bad for.
Is that much different than Logan though?
I don't think.
I mean, it's a collegiate gymnasium. Here's the thing. That's a gymnasium though. That's not an arena.
Great.
Like,
oh no, I don't like it.
I don't. It's it's all right.
But I mean, Shaker Heights, Laurel, and Bellevue are playing at El Ria Catholic High School.
I don't know.
It's
the Final Four game.
Yeah, it's not great. It's okay.
Do you think it just costs too much to rent out Dayton now, or like anywhere?
Well, it's a lot cheaper to rent high schools.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So if they just
do you think the divisional expansion has anything to do with them, maybe hosting less Final Four games in collegiate arenas? Because they're not going to do that for the boys. Like let's say, like Minford or South Webster make it to the Final Four. They're not going to play at Logan. They're not going to play at Waverly. They're going to probably go play at Dayton or wherever. I don't know if...
Or they'll just throw them down at the Convo.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, because you've got, I mean, Cleveland State. I'm just going to go like Cleveland State, Youngstown State, Akron, Kent State. You've got like Bowling Green, Toledo,
Xavier, Cincinnati.
Yeah, you've got all kinds of really.
Go play at the Notre Center.
Yeah, I love the Notre Center. You've got.
Listen, if an arena is big enough to host Monday Night Raw, it can host a Final Four game.
Yes, that's right. So. But yeah, so in this one, obviously going over it again, but Christian Thompson was awesome in it. Hopefully they can battle with Alder and give themselves a nice showing.
I mean, we're already guaranteed one team in the state title game, and maybe two. I don't know who Waterford plays, but we'll talk about that in a second. So it'd be nice. I mean, get as many Southeast District teams into the state final as possible. So we'll go ahead and move on to Division 5. Two teams, just one game, because they're actually going to match up against each other. I think Fairland went to the Southwest and Portsmouth stayed in the Southeast for the regionals. But Fairland to win over Versailles. Yeah. The Treaty of Versailles is spelled the same way, so I didn't know. But you say Versailles. Fairland beats Versailles by like 35 points, and then Portsmouth takes down Minford by 17. So
I was just going like on that. Like Rushi, which is spelled like Russia, but it's spelled.
Is that a school?
Yeah, it's a town.
Oh, okay.
It's over by there also, and then Houston, which is spelled Houston.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just whatever. I guess
that's what makes. I guess
there were not French people.
That's what makes English so hard for foreign.
Yes.
Foreign people trying to learn the language. None of the like letter combinations, they make so many different noises, and you just have to know the word to like know it. I don't know.
I know what you mean.
I love America. I love English.
What we talked about in the pre-tournament stuff was Fairland I think should probably win their first game in the Southwest, and then after that you never know. They're up like 38 at halftime. It was kind of what we thought could happen, but I don't know if we expected it to be like that. Baylor Russell was awesome in that game. She had 26. For Portsmouth, Daisha Reed had 27 in their win over Minford. And shouts to Minford. They really competed well in that game. They were only down by 12 going into the fourth. And gave themselves a really nice showing in that. Daisha Reed just got way too hot, way too quick for them in that one, and that's why Portsmouth is moving on. So Portsmouth and Fairland will take on each other on Saturday at the Convo. I believe it's a 4:00 game. And
Jeez, 4:00.
Yeah. So that'll be game 3 of the season for them.
Big time rubber match.
Yeah, two wins for Portsmouth so far, but Fairland did have a lead in the fourth quarter. of the last meeting that we had. If you want to watch that on the YouTube page, you can do
Yeah.
that as well. So that was a very good game, and it was a game that Portsmouth ultimately pulled away from. So um, I think we've got a really good chance to get a state champion out of one of those two.
So I want to talk about Portsmouth and Minford for a second. That game was on Friday. Was that when that was? It was Friday or Thursday? Because I think
Saturday.
Saturday. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad I got that right. Um, for Minford, do you think they would have covered the spread in this one?
Yes.
Do you think it would have been more than
Yes.
18 and a half
I
points?
100% do.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I didn't know what to really think of the game. Because I felt like every time I doubted Minford, they showed up in a big
well,
way.
I think the line would have been around 20, just because of some of their matchups earlier when Minford didn't get off to a great start,
Mm-hmm.
probably because of that deep tournament run in soccer. Um,
Including, they just could not get a game against Federal Hawking.
yeah,
Like,
and
they ended up playing that,
they ended
right?
up playing it
Minford
right before the
won.
tournament.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say Minford won pretty handedly, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, and that's a district champion.
Yep, and that was a really good team too. Yeah. So I think it probably would have been about a 20-point game or a 20-point line, and I don't know if I would have touched it just because, what Portsmouth could do at times and, what we had seen for Minford against some of the teams they played. But just an outstanding school year for, Minford. We've talked about it a lot, but they've been outstanding all year. So looking forward to this game. I'm going to try to get down there on Saturday to see that Portsmouth versus Fairland. Um, either way, I think our area has an excellent chance to win a state championship if whoever wins that game. The the winning team, they will play either Norwayne or Afrocentric in the championship, which would be the week after. So it would be on the 15th. So the only problem with that is that's a 10:45 a.m. game. So yay, love 10:45 a.m. starts.
All right, we can go ahead and move on to Division 7.
Yep.
Only team moving on, Waterford, as we didn't have Belpre or Federal Hawking not moving on to the state tournament. I believe they both lost in the semis. So
yeah. And then Unioto lost in the semi as well. So, but yeah, Waterford repeats another regional crown, their 8th time in 10 seasons, which is insane. Coach Close does an outstanding job.
I feel like they're just casually doing it too.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like the Southeast District, like, and obviously we're in Chillicothe. I don't think if you ask most people here that even just follow, like we'll use Unioto as an example. We know a lot of Unioto people that follow. Obviously, they're very well put together girls basketball team. I don't think a lot of them would even know Waterford is good at basketball. They probably don't even know what Waterford is.
They only will because they played them this year.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
That's the only reason why.
Though. But like you get what I'm saying. Like I just don't feel like a lot of people in we're still southern, but we're a little closer to central Ohio. I don't think a lot of people understand the type of run Waterford. Yeah. Has been going on with, like you said, with Coach Close, and it's another state tournament appearance for the Wildcats.
I'll use the Wheelersburg boys from about 10 years ago on their baseball as an example of a run like this. They won 8 straight regionals. The Wheelersburg boys did, and it was almost like that's what they're going to do. They're just going to win it every year. So because they were winning it every year, people just kind of forgot about it. And I feel like that's happened to Waterford a little bit. But man, this is a really talented Waterford team. They're going to play Mogadore on the 7th. So that'll be at Dover. So that's a pretty good trip. And then they would play the winner, if they win, play the winner of Ottoville and Fort Laramie. And that would be, I think, a rematch. I think Fort Laramie was one of the teams they've played recently. So in that win over Highland, a 16-point win over Highland, Kendall Surrey had 26 points. So in every one of those regional finals, we had someone step up in a major way. So congrats to all of them. Hopefully, not all 4 of them can win a state championship, but it'd be nice if we could get 3 of them, or at least 3 of them to play in a championship game. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to this. I'm gonna put the over under at 1.5 on state champions.
State champions or state championship appearances?
State champions.
I'm going under.
I'm going over.
Okay.
I'm going.
We already hit the over once.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
I'm going Waterford and Portsmouth.
I mean, I think if there were to be two, that would be the two. But also, I think we kind of question if Fairfield Union could even make it there. So it'd be, of course, they're probably just going to go win it all. But
okay, and then let's swing back a little bit on the boys.
Oh, are we backtracking?
We're backtracking because I thought about it right after. How many teams get to state? I'll say.
Give me a line.
1.5.
Over.
Okay.
Minford, South Webster.
Okay.
Because I think if Minford and Chesapeake match up, I'm never going to pick against Minford. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And considering South Webster, I don't see a world where South Webster loses to Patriot Prep. And I know you said Monroe Central or not Monroe Central. Who does Notre Dame play? Steubenville Central Catholic. I mean, they're just a couple spots ahead of. Man, Patriot Prep is ranked above Notre Dame in the state rankings.
They played some really bad teams.
Give me a line on just state. Wait, did you say state champions or state like championship appearances for boys?
Just state appearances.
Okay, yeah, I'll go over 1.5. Because, like, I mean, Notre Dame, to get to the state title game, they would have to beat 2 of the 3 being number 12, number 18, and number 20. Mm-hmm. I don't see how they don't make it. And then Minford, they just play well. I mean, obviously I didn't call the Zane Trace game, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch much of it because I don't know what I was doing. Oh, was I? No, that was on Friday. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't pay that much attention to the game, but they just play. They're just, I don't know. It's like they play an unbeatable brand of basketball. Like, I don't know how else to phrase it other than that, but Warren was their only loss this year. I still can't believe we got robbed of the Miami Trace Minford game during that second round of snow. But I mean, even without that game, it was still a great year. I might compile a list of what I think are our best streams and maybe put out a graphic. Just put top boys basketball streams of, or I'll just do top streams and top 10 streams of the year. I'll just put it out.
I'll do a list.
Okay.
And we can just put it out, and if people want to rewatch it, they can. If they don't, we'll fight them.
I think it could be fun because you include both boys and girls games. Because we have a few really good girls games as well. We did I think 9 total girls games. And, off the top of my head, I think at least 2 of them cracked the list because I feel like Unioto and Harvest Prep was good. That would be teeter-tottering out on the top 10. But, I think Hillsborough McLean is easily in the top 10. Man, I don't think either of the games at Shawnee would make it in.
No, but I think if the team from
Ashland Blazer.
Yeah, Ashland Blazer, if they would have played Fairland later in the season when they got healthy.
No, that definitely could have.
Because their second game with Portsmouth was much better.
And even like McLean and Adina, our first girls game stream of the year was pretty good. I'm not sure if that would crack the top 10, but I'd say it'd probably be safely in the top 15. Portsmouth and Fairland, Unioto Sheridan, Fairfield Union and Circleville, all high stakes games, but I'm not sure any of them would be in the top 10. Portsmouth and Fairland maybe, because for about 3.5 quarters, I mean, that was back and forth before Portsmouth really, took that final lead and held on to it. But yeah, I mean, it was a great year, and we'll see what is in store. And we're kind of wrapping it up because, with the way the OHSA and the NFHS are set up, typically they kind of take over in the regionals and kind of block us out from doing any live broadcasting, any live streaming, that is. But we did talk about doing like the blackout like radio thing on YouTube. That's a possibility, especially like for this Saturday when we have 2 Southeast District teams in the Final Four. I think that is something maybe we talk about tonight is a potential possibility because I've never done radio. It's not too different other than the fact that, you kind of have to call out like every pass and every movement and that kind of stuff. But it would provide a free option as if you don't want to pay the whatever, like $15 to let's tune into that game. But knowing the Portsmouth and Fairland groups, not groups, like the fan bases,
Yeah.
I'd say they'll probably fill that place up a lot more than anything we saw this past weekend for the boys district games.
Yeah, I would think so as well. So, should be a good time. Look forward to going down there and at least watching.
But yeah, I mean, overall, again, I mean, it was a great year for us on the live stream side of things. So we did 26 podcast episodes up to this point, 51 live streams, 64 teams, over 115,000 views, about 2,200 a stream, which, that last weekend at the Convo really inflated the average number. But
you don't have to tell anyone that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the median instead of the mean, it might be, a little closer to, 1,000 or 1,200. But, still, we've gotten, progressively better every single year. I mean, you go back to a couple, or I guess it'd be the 21-22 season. So that'd be 3 years ago. And 2 years ago, last year, this year, I mean, it's gotten better every year. Every year we've covered more games, more teams, and gotten more views. So, I mean, I'm not sure if we'll be able to top this year, next year. But I also think I may have said that last year. So you never know. But
we had one break go our way that helped us, do some of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And due to that helped us get to more games, but
more teams.
Yeah, but I felt like
it was an interesting.
I felt like we had a better strategy of how to go about things.
Yeah.
Which always helps.
I will say, other than Steubenville and New Lexington, and Valley, I was going to say we covered every district final team before the tournament. We never got the Valley.
Yeah.
Or a New Lexington or Steubenville, but we got everybody else, including Manchester, Notre Dame, South Webster, Fairfield, Unioto,
that made
Waverly,
it a lot easier
or
to call.
Megs, I guess. So I guess it wasn't as quite as good of a clip as I thought,
but that made it a lot easier for us to cover those teams at the end and to have more of an idea about those teams as well.
All right, well. Like I said, it was going to be a short episode. We just kind of wanted to get on here and put a cherry on top of this season. Obviously, the spring sports season, we'll provide live stream coverage from VA Memorial Stadium. Maybe we'll try to branch out down to Bob Wren this year, as I think we have the capability to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just branch out and any place we can kind of get to outside of the VA, try to do it, as that's something we haven't done before, and we've done a pretty good job of knocking down some barriers here. So
yeah, we'll have something as far as overtime goes for the spring. It may not be very much. It might be like 3 or 4 episodes, but it's going to be at least something to get some more information out than we did last year. It may not be Dewey. I might try to I might kidnap him and make him come in here, but we'll at least have something, and just check out our socials and stuff, and that's kind of how you can find out what's coming up next and when the next stream's going to be and whatnot from there.
All right, well, for John, Bruce, and Dewey Dailey, that for now wraps it up here on SOSA Overtime, presented by Perfection One.